Actually, the softer skills, ethics and thinking skills and problem solving, those things are what I think is most important. And that's one of the reasons that I concentrate so much on this way of living, is not just how to build a house in a much more sustainable, organic, natural way, but so that the people that have that experience are stronger as community members and have more to contribute to society, so that they're healthier and they have more of a spiritual connection to the entire earth, so that they understand where they fit in to the world. So these things that I mentioned, these are really important, and that's why I've dedicated my life to teaching these things, because I feel sorry for the people that don't have this kind of experience, and I want to reach out and help them. And that's what I had a vision to do, and that's what I've done, and that's why I've been attacked by my government. My pattern and what I want to teach about, like the purpose, is to show people how to walk out in their yard, in their forest, in their field, just pick up things that are right there, like some rocks and a tree, some dirt, some sand, and build a very nice house. Like, it costs next to nothing. There's buildings out here, that barn there, people said, well, that barn's worth way over $100,000. I said, well, interesting, I just spent $27 cash on it.
This country was not built on people having to buy permits to build whatever they wanted to build on their own private property. This country was supposed to be a free society where people could voluntarily interact and make consensual business. And, they're out here on 500 acres just minding their own business, building their own structures, and raising their own food. And there's absolutely nothing criminal about that.
We have the health department come out every year because they said they had to. I'd rather they didn't come out. I'd rather them just let me live the way I want to live. But they came out and started inspecting, and for over 20 years they've been inspecting annually. They do surprise visits to our kitchen and our camp, and we put up with it, work with it. We've made compromises. We quit letting kids learn how to get natural spring water, and we quit letting kids have our raw milk, and quit letting kids have like a rooster, and we can teach them how to raise it and kill it and butcher it, but we can't let them eat it. So we've had to give up a lot of the things that we wanted to be doing with and for the public or the visitors. And so it's sad that we haven't been able to do what we really want to do for a long time, but now they've completely shut us down. We actually had a functional relationship with the health department for over 20 years, and we always passed the inspections, and we never had a real big problem. There was never a stumbling block that kept us from going forward with being permitted and being okay with the county government. But it seems like some big behind-the-scenes thing happened, and a whole conspiracy of county government people got together and made a big D-Day attack.
We received a call from somebody who made a complaint that there was building and grading going on without permit.
So who was that call? Who called you?
Well, nobody called me. Somebody called somebody else here. I didn't talk to them. I don't even know their name. Subsequently, we received a map anonymously. We assume it's from the same person, but don't know that.
Like they mailed it to you?
Yeah, that's my understanding.
The local head of the planning and inspection called, left a message on an answer machine, and I checked it, and he said, I need to come out and look at your preserve over. I called him right back and gave him permission to come look around and see our buildings and see what was going on.
In June, it was a prearranged visit with Mr. Conway's permission. He met them there, and that's when they discovered that there were at least several buildings built without building permits.
And so they came out. Actually, he had just mentioned like one or two people, but I think, let's see, I think 4 people came out that day. And they looked it over, and I showed them a lot of places. And at one point, one of the inspectors, he said, well, there's just rocks under these buildings. And it seems to him, as I was reading what he was saying, is he couldn't imagine that a building just had rocks under it. So I explained, well, really, in the old days, that's all people put under buildings. You know, that's what the White House is built on. That's what George Washington's house is built on. That's what Thomas Jefferson's house is built on. That's what all early American houses are built on. And hundreds, if not thousands of them are still standing just fine. I didn't kind of go into it, but through my own head, I was thinking about his complaint. I was thinking, you know, I could punch my hand through a cinder block like these cheap modern foundations are made with, but you're not going to punch your hand through a solid rock. You know, it goes back to the whole idea of solid rock foundation. But he seemed like he didn't quite know how to understand our buildings. And so he went back, and I guess he gave his report to Joe Furman, who is the supervisor and head of building and inspections, and he pointed out to our office that he needed to hire a specialist, like a special instructor and or special inspector, to come out. And so I wrote him a letter, a very kind, polite letter, and said, oh, I'm curious, why do you need a special instructor? Actually, I think the word is inspector. Why do you need a special inspector to come out to look at our buildings? Aren't they the kind of thing where you're a building inspector, our county can look at it and understand it? And he's never answered that question to this date. But the letter I got back from him said that he was threatening criminal charges. And so I was really curious why I had criminal charges threatened against me. And so when I got that letter, I thought, hey, I think something is wrong here. I'm getting criminal threats against me, and I don't feel like I've done anything wrong.
In your cover letter here, it says that you would have to take more formal measures if he doesn't allow the search, or the other visit, including, or, you know, could include one or more of the following, and that's where you say you would seek an administrative search warrant.
And that's what we did.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all we've done.
And, or you could have sought condemnation proceedings, civil penalties, imposition of criminal penalties. What would some of those entail? Some of those things, like what kind of criminal penalties could be brought on him at that point?
Whatever the statutes allow.
So you would have had to seek legal counsel to determine that.
All I was doing there was saying this is the entire range of what the remedies could be. And that's just a matter of routine in any letter similar to that. You inform the person of what the possibilities would be.
Okay.
And that's just a matter of fairness there.
A whole bunch of different branches all showed up with a whole caravan of trucks and made a surprise attack with a search warrant, and came in and just took over our home for half a day and violated our privacy and my sense of human rights.
This is where the health department and fire marshal and them became involved. Why did they come out?
Well, the fire code's part of the building code,
Mm-hmm.
so they needed to come for that reason. The health department came. We invited them. We guessed that they would be interested.
Okay, so you just let
We
these
invited them to
departments know that there was a warrant and that they might have some violations from their department. Okay.
And there's no sense in piecemeal. We didn't want to go out there and find some stuff and then later have the health department decide they wanted to go, and later on have the fire marshal go. We decided to go all at once, review everything, and convey that information all at once.
Okay.
And there were people from a lot of, like, it wasn't just one department, it wasn't just two departments, it wasn't just three departments, it's like several departments, like basically every department they could think of.
It was
I think
all
the fire
local?
marshals
Oh.
came out, I think the tax people came out, the health department people came out, the building inspections people came out. That's why I call it a conspiracy. I mean, you got to have a little forethought.
He felt like there was a conspiracy because of the fact that all these different departments had come out to visit his properties during that warrant process. He specifically called it a conspiracy.
Conspiracy? What kind of conspiracy?
Well, the idea that several different entities, independent entities, were working together to come and execute the search.
Well, I think I already explained that, why everybody went. So there wouldn't be any piecemeal approach.
Could the Planning and Inspections Department, would you guys have been under, gotten in any kind of trouble if, like, say, for instance, the tax assessor later said, oh, you didn't inform us about this, if they hadn't come out during the warrant?
In trouble?
There was nothing requiring that you guys inform them about that. Was there any other entity that you were required to inform about the warrant? Okay, I think that's why he kind of maybe feels like threatened to some extent, or like what he specifically called a conspiracy. Like they were going after him to find something from one of these agencies.
Well, I'm sorry he feels that way.
Have the tax assessors placed any violations on him as of now, since they did their search under the search
I don't
warrant?
think that's how they operate. I think what they would do is simply add what they found that they didn't know existed to the books.
Okay,
And I don't know. I can't speak for them either.
Gotcha.
There's no conspiracy. Nobody has anything against him or the camp. Nobody went down there with the intention of closing the camp. The findings of the visit dictated what has happened since.
And so they said that this urinal is an unacceptable method. It's not approved, is their words. Only things that are approved. It's a very narrow band. If this is approved, you can do it. If it's not approved, you can't do it. Just black and white. And so it's not approved, so we can't have that anymore.
Where's the exceptions on wiring and plumbing for those kinds of things? Because it doesn't seem like he wants
There aren't any.
those things. Yeah. So anybody that's not homeless then would have to live with wiring and plumbing.
That's what the building code says.
My goal is for the poorest man in this county to be able to have a healthy human waste system where they can have a snap-on lid on a 5-gallon reused, repurposed bucket and know how to manage his waste in a way that's healthier than anything y'all are doing now. And a lot of it comes down to money. And I don't want to just look out for the rich guys. I want to look out for the poor guys and the poorest, The guys that don't have much cash flow, they deserve to have the freedom to do this. And in fact, a lot of these government controls that I have seen are really just stifling, depressing, and making it an unhealthy country, like in a deep psychology way.
One thing that he has said is that with his bathroom facilities, he doesn't have plumbing. Some of them it's just like, an outhouse, I guess. And that if an individual who is homeless or something on the street didn't have any money to be able to make amenities for themselves, that he would want to be able to instruct them how they can make bathroom arrangements for themselves in a way that's not intrusive to anybody else, that's sanitary and healthy, what would you say, like if, a homeless person walked in here and said, I live on the streets, where should I use the bathroom? What should I do?
I don't think that's relevant to our conversation here. I don't think it applies at all. I don't think that's what he's about.
Well, he wants to teach people how to do things independently and for themselves. And plumbing, that costs money for somebody to be able to implement for themselves.
No, there's public restroom facilities that people can use.
Okay, so that would be kind of what the Planning and Inspections Department would say as a solution for that.
Okay, just got that squared away, so are you ready for inspection tomorrow?
I don't think these questions are really relevant to where we're going with this.
What I can do is schedule it for tomorrow, and I would suggest you call back and speak with Keith
You know what?
to verify that.
What we're about with Turtle Island is there aren't personal exemptions to the building code.
Mm-hmm.
The thing is there's no code for stuff like this. I took a look at some of the buildings that I could see from the outside, and so far I took a look at what I wrote down as the new barn, because it had a lot of new lumber on it. The stable with the horses, the kitchen here, and the small little shed with the lean-to roof and had the cart underneath it. And I took a look at obviously no plumbing or electric, but I took a look at walls, roof, the flooring material, framing wise, and I mean everything is above what you'd expect to see, at least when we're talking bare minimum structural code. Everything's overbuilt in a lot of ways. I mean, for what you're considering the weight load that's on it, the metal roof that's all around that barn right there, that's in great shape. And you've got what was that? That was, you have 2x8 joists, 4x8 beams. Your joists are 16 or 24 on center. Either one is fine. You got 4x6 posts or greater at 6 feet on center, and it's supporting a metal roof.
I know that they're well built and overbuilt, and I'm glad to hear that you recognize that too.
Yeah, I mean,
the county doesn't understand that. They came out and this is not what they're used to seeing.
Building code or not, whether these things are getting passed because someone's greasing the wheel or whatever. The way this, speaking about this in particular,
this building right here,
this building right here, the way you're building it is better than, it's stronger than most of the way people's houses are built.
Well, personally, it's odd, it's ironic, because personally I would be embarrassed to build on the standards of the modern, low minimum code.
Right.
I wouldn't think about building minimum code.
I'm the exact same way.
And yet they're saying these buildings aren't up to minimum code. I'm like, they're far surpassed minimum code.
Yeah, and they are. Because you're not, weight-wise here, you don't have much. On this tin roof, there's not much weight on this roof.
But it's built to where even if there was a lot of snow, it would hold it up.
Yeah.
So if there was a lot of weight.
Exactly. It's built for, it's built for weight. And there's not much on it. And that's the thing,
What I'm wondering is there a such thing as private property for an individual to be able to just go cut down some trees and make a shelter for themselves, without getting approval?
I don't know how you want me to answer that question. The building code applies to buildings, and sleeping quarters and living quarters, and buildings that people are going to be in and out of.
All human beings on planet Earth have been making their homes through all time. Whether you subscribe to people being around for 3,000 years or 3 million years, all those people through all time have had the ability and the independence and the freedom and the knowledge to build, and that built community because they worked together on it. And it was like a passing right into manhood If you were a man, you knew how to build a building for your people, for your family. And that's not the way it is anymore. And in fact, now, the laws keep us from having that passing right into manhood. They keep us from having the freedom to house our families. And that's an extraordinary change. So you got a 3 million year president, and then all of a sudden you have, like the last 20 or 40 years, you got a complete change to the whole way of being a human being. That's why I think it's beyond constitutional right. This is a human rights thing.
Wiring and plumbing is required in any of the public buildings?
Well, it's required in any buildings used for sleeping purposes.
Okay.
So we've got a number of buildings out there that were built without permits or inspections that these interns are sleeping in.
The doghouse that's right over here, they're claiming that it could be a dwelling place for interns, even though it's 4 foot long and it's clear that it's a doghouse.
Maybe I'll say hi to him first.
This is the doghouse that they...
Yes.
Sprinkler system?
Wait, yes. This? Can you believe it? Yes! That's the doghouse. We want running water, a sprinkling system, and maybe electricity.
Maybe handicap accessibility wheelchair.
I mean, it's a complete
Oh
joke.
my gosh. I thought you were going to take me up to that thing.
No. That's what they're claiming.
They said that they
could
thought
possibly stay in.
somebody was staying in there.
Does that mean if I take a piece of tin and put it on top of my firewood, that's a building? And does it need a sprinkler system in there? And does it have to have indoor plumbing? And because I'm not going to sleep in my firewood pile. Yeah, if it's a structure, it's a building. You know, it's like, well, where does that, like, structure, building, like, does it have to have walls? So basically, what they're really doing, is they're saying that if I have a piece of tin over a pile of firewood, it's a building.
They've raised issues about the compost pile, saying that you have to have a $500 permit to be able to shovel horse manure and then wheelbarrow it over to the compost pile. He made a toilet inside one of the buildings here for his mother, who was 82 years old and ailing, and he made a toilet closer to where the nearest outhouse was, so she wouldn't have to travel in the middle of the night. And they're raising concerns about that, and I mean, just a lot of things that definitely, to the average person, it should raise a lot of red flags about.
The county attorney conveyed this report along with a cover letter to Turtle Island on October 17th. That's the health department's one. He conveyed the health department's cease and desist order at the same time. 2 separate packages.
Okay. Well, some of these, it's like, there was a treehouse thing. And is there anything pending on those types of things? Though I saw a picture where it pointed it out.
Everything's pending. The treehouse.
You have not given him instruction yet, though, on those aspects. Or have you?
I'm not sure I understand your question.
Like, this one picture, it pointed out the treehouse. And so you say that is pending on what he needs to do on that? You haven't given him any instructions on what to do on that?
Well, we haven't really given any instructions other than we've asked him to come in and get building permits.
Okay. And
the treehouse would need to be permitted probably because it's for little kids to climb up in.
Because it's public.
Yeah.
Okay.
They've said that we're open to the public, but when you get right down to it, I pointed out to them that I looked up in my dictionary the word public, and it really wasn't open to the public according to my dictionary.
Right. You have signs saying keep off unless you are scheduled to be here or allowed to be here or whatever. So
yeah, well, our signs at our gated entrance say if you don't have an appointment, you will be turned away. Yeah, I have one sign at the gate that's 8 foot long and 4 foot wide that says no trespassing. So it should be obvious that we're not open to the public, but they say, oh no, you're open to the public. It's like, well, let me do a little more research. So I looked at Black's Law Book, which is a legal dictionary. And according to that definition and that book, I'm not open to the public. So maybe I'm not open to the public. Basically, people only come if they're invited guests.
Right.
They give us an application, and if we accept them as a member to our community, then they can come, whether it's for a couple of hours or a couple of years. But the only people that show up here are the people that really want to be here.
He was saying it's not open to the public because he has no trespassing signs, and everybody that is there, he invites them to be there.
They're the public. That's what the interns are considered the public.
Okay, so but what's the difference then? What is it that makes them public as opposed to them being guests of his on his like private residential property?
Anybody that's not him.
That doesn't have that as their permanent address is public.
I don't know exactly how to portray this accurately, but there are people. The interns are there under some kind of agreement, contract, understanding. He's providing housing for them, so that makes them public in that sense.
As it is, I haven't fixed anything or gotten over any violations, and so I'm not in compliance other than ceasing and desisting and trying to figure out if this makes any sense. It's hard for me to have respect to even want to talk to them, much less work with them, and when they have something as silly and foolish as having to have a septic drain filled for a garden hose. Like, I've traveled all over this country. I've never seen any other person in North America that had to have a septic filled for a garden hose. And most of them have chlorine and other poisonous materials in their water. So I'm trying to figure out where to go, but I'm really inspired to not back down and not go along with their foolishness and make a story out of it for the people to comprehend how their freedom and their liberty are gone, and that if they want to grab a hold of the last vestige on the tail of the kite before it launches into infinity, they better do something about it. And here's an opportunity for other people to get involved to help me. I need help. I can't manage this too well. This is a big deal, a government against one poor man out in the woods,